You were the golden child, the one who got praised for good grades, being polite, staying out of trouble. People said you were mature for your age. Teachers loved you. Family bragged about you. You never messed up, or at least that's what it looked like. But now, you're anxious. Not the kind of anxious you can explain away. It's the kind that shows up in the morning before your feet even touch the ground. You wake up already overwhelmed, not because the day is hard, but because the idea of getting through it feels impossible. You second guess every word you say, every email you send, every silence in a conversation. You worry about things no one else even notices. That one sentence you said yesterday, still looping in your head, that one unread message, feels like a trap. And even when everything looks fine, you don't feel fine. You smile, you function. But inside, it feels like you're walking on glass, always afraid you'll say the wrong thing, disappoint the wrong person, fall short in a way you can't recover from. So what happened? How did the golden child, the one who never caused trouble, the one who got the gold stars and quiet admiration, grow up into someone who feels like they're one mistake away from unraveling? How did the kid who was praised for being so mature end up terrified of being seen as anything less than perfect? How did the golden child grow up and become so afraid of falling apart? I remember when I was 11. I gave a speech at school, nothing big, just a class presentation. But I still remember the sound of the clapping. It wasn't polite, it was loud. I got a standing ovation. My teacher said I was a natural. My classmates looked at me differently that day. My parents told everyone that night, "She's gifted. She's going to be something." I smiled through it all. I nodded. I said thank you. But that night, when the lights were off and the house was quiet, I couldn't sleep. Not because I was proud, not because I was excited, but because something heavy settled in my chest. A quiet voice started whispering, "What if I can't do it again? What if next time I mess up? What if they find out I'm not really that good?" I stared at the ceiling in the dark, and for the first time, I felt like my success was a shadow I'd have to chase forever. That's when I realized the praise didn't just lift me up, it locked me in. That's when I learned the price of being the golden one. It sounds flattering to be the good kid, the high achiever, the one everyone's proud of. But no one tells you what it costs. You start to believe your worth is tied to how perfectly you perform. That love is earned, not given. That making people proud is more important than being okay. You become careful, calculated. You choose words that won't disappoint. You hide mistakes before they happen. You become the version of yourself that gets applause and bury the parts that don't. And every time you succeed, the pressure doesn't go away. It builds. Because now, people expect it from you. Now it's your standard. So success stops feeling like a victory. It starts to feel like a trap. Like, if you stop being amazing, they'll stop seeing you. If you slow down, they'll stop clapping. If you fail, even once, you'll prove you were never really special at all. That's the weight you carry when you've been the golden child. Not just the praise, but the silent fear that if you're not perfect, you're nothing. There's actually a psychological term for this: conditional self-worth. When you're constantly praised for achievements or being the good kid, you internalize the idea that love only comes when you perform. So your brain learns, if I mess up, I'm not valuable. It doesn't matter how many times you did it right. That one mistake, that's all it takes to feel like a failure. So you replay it over and over, trying to erase it with guilt, with overthinking, with silence. Because deep down, you fear people will remember that one wrong note and forget the entire song. If I rest, I'm lazy. Even when your body is exhausted, even when your mind is begging for stillness, you feel guilty sitting still. You open your laptop out of habit. You check your phone, your emails, your to-do list, not because you want to, but because rest feels wrong. Because somewhere along the line you were taught that slowing down meant falling behind. That ease was equal to laziness. If I'm not perfect, I don't deserve approval. Not just from others, but from yourself. You hold yourself to standards no one else asked for. And even when people praise you, it doesn't feel real. Because deep inside, you don't believe it. You think, if they really knew me, the parts I hide, the fears I carry, they wouldn't clap. They'd walk away. So you push harder, smile wider, try again, and again. Because perfection to you isn't about excellence. It's about survival. Over time, this pattern doesn't just fade into the background. It becomes you. Psychologists call it high-functioning anxiety. But most people just call it being impressive. You look composed on the outside, polished, put together. You show up early. You meet deadlines. You seem reliable. But your inner world, it's a storm no one else sees, because you've built an identity on holding it together. Your mind never stops. You lie in bed rehearsing conversations that haven't happened yet. You prepare for failure before it even appears. You smile while your stomach knots up over tiny details no one else notices. And somewhere along the way, you become addicted to being perfect. You can't rest. Because if you rest, who are you? You can't slow down. Because speed is safety, motion is control. So you start mistaking productivity for peace. If you're busy, you must be okay. If you're achieving, you must be enough. But it's not peace. It's panic on a schedule. And the praise, the compliments, they don't feel good anymore. They feel like expectations. Another performance. Another role to maintain. Perfection isn't a personality trait. It's often just a well-dressed form of panic. It looks calm, it looks capable. But underneath, it's fear in disguise. Fear of failing. Fear of being seen. Fear of not being enough if you stop pretending. You might have noticed this pattern. You replay conversations over and over in your head. You feel guilty when you take a break. You smile when you're breaking inside. You avoid risks, not because you don't want more, but because you're terrified of disappointing anyone. And the worst part? You don't even know who you are anymore. Without the praise, without the applause, without the perfection. Because no one ever asked who you were. They just told you who they wanted you to be. You're not anxious because you're weak. You've survived too much in silence to ever be called weak. You've shown up, held it together, smiled through breaking points. Weakness isn't your story. But anxiety? Anxiety is what happens when your real self is buried under expectation. When every time you wanted to say, "I'm not okay," you chose "I'm fine" instead. Because being anything less than strong felt like a failure. You were never allowed to be real. Just good. Just impressive. Just golden. So you learned how to perform instead of express. To perfect instead of process. To please instead of pause. You became a highlight reel. A walking, talking version of what other people applauded, but not necessarily what you needed. And that's what anxiety really is for you. Not just fear, but the exhaustion of pretending for too long. The quiet rebellion of a heart that's tired of hiding. Gold looks beautiful on the outside, but it bends in silence when no one's looking. It gleams under the spotlight, but it cracks under the weight of always being shiny. And maybe that's what you are. Not broken, just bent. Bent from the pressure of perfection. Bent from carrying too much, too young for too long. But here's the thing about gold. It can be reshaped, softened, melted down, recast into something real. And maybe it's time you stop trying to stay golden and start becoming whole. So if you've been wondering why the weight feels heavier lately, maybe it's not because you've gotten weaker. Maybe you've just been carrying things that were never yours to hold. All those expectations, all those performances, all those silent agreements you made to be good, to be enough, to be perfect, they add up. And your anxiety, it's not a glitch. It's a signal, a quiet alarm from your soul saying, please, let me be real now. So maybe this week you try something different. Maybe you pause, even when your to-do list screams not to. Maybe you say no, even if it disappoints someone. Maybe you let the mask slip, just for a moment, and see what happens. Because you're not here to be golden. You're here to be whole. Here's something no one told the golden child. You were never supposed to be perfect. You were supposed to be human. You don't have to sparkle all the time. You don't have to prove yourself over and over just to be loved. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to change. You are allowed to just be. The world won't fall apart if you take a breath. But you might if you don't. This was your moment of truth. Now take it gently.